I'm always happy to be here and to try to explain the normalized solution. And despite of the social part of the conference, which is, for example, the spicy food in Bangalore, or the famous coffee in Napoli, because so I was happy to hear some Italian language, because I like very much to be in Bangalore, also to be in Napoli. So let us try to continue. So if you remember, because it is important to understand that normalized solution are in some sense a good framework, because you have an extension of the notion of weak solution. So the one of the proposition here is that if the solution, if the right-hand side is more regular, and if the matrix is bounded, then any renormalized solution is also a weak solution. And to do this, I recall that in fact the function tk, where tk is a truncate, is in some sense you can use it as a test function, but of course you need to go to use um, standard in the sense of normal solution, standard way, which is to use hn of u, tk of u as a test function, and then n goes to plus infinity. Okay, so for the proposition 3, which is if the right hand side is more regular and the matrix A is bounded, then any normalized solution is also a weak solution. In fact, you use the proposition 4, and then in fact it is sufficient to derive some uniform estimate of the truncate. And in fact, using some simple inequality, so the Cauchy-Schwarz inequality, the Poincaré inequality, and the ellipticity of the matrix A, then you can show that there exists a constant such that you have this the following estimate. The consequence is that the tk of u is bounded uniformly with respect to k in H1 0, then you can obtain by standard way that u, because you know that u is finite almost everywhere, then you have the fact that u belongs to H1 0. And then it is not using what I explained yesterday, the method of the function hn, then you can show that u is also a weak solution by taking hn phi, where phi is a regular function first, and then you obtain the fact that you have a solution in the sense of distribution, but because you have all the regularity, then you can take by density a test function which belongs to each one 0. Okay, now just a few remarks about what I explained also in the introduction, that you have a good yes, you have a framework which is a good framework. You have some stability results. So here I will not prove the theorem, but you have the following theorem. That is, if you take a sequence of renormalized solution with right hand side, which is f epsilon, and also you can also have a epsilon dependent matrix. Of course, you need to have some uniform, the uniform ellipticity of the matrix, okay, of the sequence, all the matrix of the sequence A epsilon. And also to have for the existence, you need to know that the matrix, the coefficient of the matrix are bounded where R is bounded. So which can be written in such a way. If f epsilon goes to f strongly, and also if you know that the matrix goes to the matrix A epsilon goes to the matrix A uniformly, in some, yes, it is some uniform convergence, okay, with respect to R epsilon, then you can show a stability result. That is, if you take a sequence of renormalized solution U epsilon with right hand side F epsilon on the matrix A epsilon, then U epsilon goes to U almost everywhere, to U, where U is a renormalized solution of the limit problem. And in fact, you can show also a stronger result, which is that the truncate of U epsilon goes to the truncate, converge to the truncate of U strongly in H10 for any n. So, and in fact, we have also this result in the existence proof, but I did not mention this, but we have also this result. And in fact, you can show the existence of a solution just using the stability result. So it is another presentation of the existence of a solution, because you know that any weak solution, if you have regular data on matrix A which is bounded, you know that any weak solution belonging to H10 belongs to is also a renormalized solution. Then by this result, you can you have another proof of the existence. Okay. And in fact, what is important in this theorem, to prove this theorem, is the fact that you can use tk of U epsilon as a test function, as in proposition 4, and then you can recover all the estimate. In fact, you can can understand what when you have renormalized solution, you have in mind that the solution was approximated by the regular right hand side. In fact, so you recover the estimate. So some extension I have to mention. So there are a lot of paper about renormalized solution. So in fact, you can, for our problem, you can take right hand side, because I present first the variational case with h-1 data, and then I take some L1 data. Of course, it is possible to take a data which is in L1 plus h-1. You can add to the equation a term divergence phi of U, where phi is a continuous function without any growth condition. But here it is important to have directly boundary condition, and because you use the divergence theorem. As François made, you can add some term in G of U gradient U to the power 2. You can consider some Lorentz, very general Lorentz operator with L1 plus W1 minus 1 P prime data, because you are in the subole spaces W10, W1P0 framework. So you have also some problem with with blow up and so on. Just a remark about the case of general Lorentz operator. One of the main difficulty is, as usual, when you consider nonlinear operator, is the identification of the weak limit. And if you have in mind the method in the standard, in the famous Lorentz case, you have the Minty trick for the identification of the weak limit. Okay. But here I cannot mention all the reference, but there are a lot of reference on all this this kind of problem. And also you have the possibility to study some parabolic equation. Next, I want to explain the question of the uniqueness, because it is also a very interesting point to derive some uniqueness result, because it is a strong point of renormalized solution to have possibility of uniqueness. Of course, to have uniqueness, if you remember the variational case, you need additional assumption on the matrix A with respect to S, okay, and which are some Lipschitz, global Lipschitz, or older condition depending on the structure of your equation. But it is important to distinguish in our problem the case where lambda is a positive real number, and in this case, the uniqueness will come from the term lambda u. And if you have in mind the parabolic case, so it is not the same because you have some L1 dependence, but it is almost the same. But when lambda is a positive real number. When lambda is equal to 0, then the situation is more intricate, and you will see, I will try to explain to you how to derive the uniqueness in the variational case also, to explain the method and to generalize to the L1 case. So, but it is very important because the situation is okay. You need to there are some papers, but it is very important to distinguish the two cases. So here I will try to explain the theorem when lambda is a positive real number. So in fact, what I need to obtain the uniqueness, I need first that, okay, the previous assumption to have the existence, because I prefer to prove a uniqueness result if I have existence. And I will assume that R, the matrix A, sorry, verifies some local Lipschitz condition. Because so here it is a local Lipschitz condition. It is important to yes, okay. Perhaps that a global Lipschitz is sufficient for some problem, but we try to have most general result. And in fact, if the matrix A is a local Lipschitz with respect to the second variable, okay, so uniform with respect to X, of course, then you can show that the renormalized solution is unique. So how to prove this? So the proof is a little bit technical, but I will try to explain what is what are the techniques and why why lambda is a positive real number is important. Okay, so I take U1 and U2 to renormalize solution of our problem. So I recall that I have a renormalized solution of my model quasi-linear elliptic equation. So the strategy is, roughly speaking, the following. I will use each n, so I recall that each n is a function which have this graph, okay, n to n, so it is not regular repair, but okay. And you can use also hn of u2 in the equation in u2. You compute the difference, and then the order of considering the limit is very important, because first you have to put to have k goes to plus infinity, goes to 0, sorry, and then n goes to infinity. And at the end, you will obtain the following inequality, that is u1 minus u2 as a zero norm in L1. So you obtain that u1 equal to u2. Okay. Now, just remark that why can I use the test function h1 u1 tk of u1 minus u2 over k in the equation in u1. So in fact, it is because you know that the support of the function hn is minus 2n to n. You can see that almost everywhere in omega, that you have that each n of u1, the truncate of u1 minus u2, is in fact equal to each n of u1, the truncate of t of the truncate of u1 with 2n plus 2n plus 1 8 minus the truncate t of t 2n plus 1 of u2. So in fact, this function belongs to L infinity h1 0. So it is an admissible test function. This is what I wrote in the on the slide. So it is important to play with normalized solution and to justify that it is an admissible test function. So to do this, I have to take a function which a function in U1 which have a compact support, which is also regular, okay, and the function which belong to L infinity inter h1 0. So to do this, I have to rewrite this function. So it is an admissible test function. Okay, so you have in mind that there is no problem in all the integral I wrote here, that in all the integral, you can, you can replace U1 on U2 by the truncate of U1 on U2 at some level, which is 2n plus 1, for example. Okay. Perhaps I need to have k less than 1. Okay, but it is not important because I will k goes to 0. So now we divide by k. It is just for the presentation. I don't divide by k in this equation because it takes too much place. So you divide by k, and then we want to study the behavior of each term as k goes to 0. So we start with the first term, because the first term is not complicated. So what you have lambda, the integral on omega of u1 h of u1 minus u2 hn of u2 tk over tk of u1 minus u2 over k. So what do you have? So you know that the truncate is a function which is less than 1, and you know that this function converge to the sign of u1 minus u2. Okay, so with the Lebesgue dominated convergence theorem, it is not, you have as a consequence that this integral goes to u1 hn of u1 minus u2 hn of u2 sine of u1 minus u2. Okay, now I will study as n goes to infinity, because you know that u1, u2 are finite almost everywhere. So what happens? It happens that hn of u1 goes to 1, hn of u2 goes to 1 as n goes to plus infinity. So with the Lebesgue dominated convergence, you obtain that the integral of u1 hn of u1 minus u2 hn of u2, the sine of u1 minus u2, goes to the integral of u1 minus u2, the sine of u1 minus u2. So which is what we want, because it is the lambda, the integral of the absolute value of u1 minus u2. Okay, so the first system is not complicated to study. Now I will try to consider this term. So for this term, this term is the right hand side, and in a similar way. Okay, similarly, okay, you can show that the limit, so the integral of f hn u1 minus u2 hn of u1 minus hn of u2 tk u1 minus u2. So first, when k goes to 0, you have, it goes to, you can replace, it is a sign, you have in the same way the sign of u1 minus u2. And because f belongs to L1, it is for the similar reason, you can show that as n goes to plus infinity, it goes to 0, because this function goes to 0 as n goes to plus infinity. So it goes to 0 as n goes to infinity. Okay, now I have to die another the two terms here, because the two terms are very similar. And in fact, for the two terms coming from h prime u1, it is the decay of the energy. So here, it is the decay of the energy of the truncated energy. Decay of the truncated energy. Because you know you can show that the integral, this integral here, u1 tk of u1 minus u2 over k is less than, okay, I can have a Bund which is independent of k, and you have that it is the integral where u1 is less than 2n, and you have gradient u1, gradient u1, and with the decay of the energy, it goes to 0 as n goes to plus infinity. So you see that the three for the you have some terms which are not difficult to control. And in fact, up to now, I don't use the fact that the matrix A is Lipschitz. Okay, now the last, so I will take some orange color. So I have to control the orange part in the equation. Okay. So for this, of course, you cannot study independently each term, because you obtain nothing. So for this term, I will try to. So it is the orange part. So what do you have? You have the integral on omega hn u1 ex u1 gradient u1 gradient tk of u1 minus u2 minus the integral on omega of hn u2 ex u2 gradient u2 gradient tk of u1 minus u2. Okay, so you can in fact you can, because we have to use, in fact, that the matrix is elliptic. Okay, you have the ellipticity condition. So you have to write, as usual, that you can put this decomposition. So here we will use the ellipticity condition, and the remainder term is hn u1 ax u1 minus hn u2 ax u2 gradient u2 gradient tk of u1 minus u2. Okay, so the first term could be written in hn u1 ax u1, and here you have the gradient tk u1 minus u2, gradient tk of u1 minus u2. So this term is very sympathetic because this term is non-negative. Okay. For this one, it is important to consider, so also I have to divide by k. Okay, but I will divide by k at the end because, okay. So it is very important to understand that this integral is on the set where u1 minus u2, the absolute of u1 minus u2 is between 0 and k. Okay, and you can remove the 0 value. So what do you have? You have h1 minus u1, and also you can show that there is no difficulty if k is less than 1 because we want to have k goes to 0, that in fact this integral concerns only the level where u1 and u2 are less than 2n plus 1 for the absolute value. Okay, so now we will use the so here I have a little bit more place. Okay, so what happens? It happens that if I write this term bk, okay, n, you can show that bkn over k is less than a constant, because here you will use the Lipschitz condition, the local Lipschitz condition. It's very important. Why can we use the local Lipschitz condition? Because we are on this integral is where u1 and u2 are bounded by 2n. So for n being, if n is fixed, then it is less than a constant which depends on n and so on. The integral on this set, and here I can write what I want to the power 2 plus the gradient. So I use some Young inequality if you want. So I can write this. Okay, and I divide by k. Okay, because here some k appears, and then I can divide by k. Now it is sufficient to use the Lebesgue dominated convergence theorem. Because the characteristic function goes to 0 almost everywhere in omega. When k goes to 0, it goes almost everywhere in omega. So the limit when k goes to 0 of bkn over k is equal to 0. So what we obtain if we mix all the information we had, we have so we have this equation. So k goes to first k goes to 0, and then n goes to plus infinity. Then so we have a non this term, so it remains only the lambda absolute value of u1 minus u2. This term which is positive, which is non-negative. So at the end, as a conclusion, we obtain that lambda, the integral of u1 minus u2, plus a term which is non-negative, but I don't care, it is equal to is less than 0. So u1 minus u2 is equal to 0. That is u1 equal to u2 almost everywhere in omega. And we have the uniqueness result. So here it is the main technique to obtain uniqueness. And in fact, you can generalize this to some another operator. So sometimes you have some difficulty if you have some lower order term, so or divergence term, but it is okay. It's possible to have some generalization. Also, you can. It's possible to replace the local Lipschitz condition by some global holder, but okay, but you have to study deeply the structure of the equation. So here it is the first uniqueness theorem, and in fact, you have some L1 dependence because with the technique I explained in theorem 7, you can show that under the previous assumption that you have some L1 Lipschitz continuity of the randomized solution with respect to the right-hand side. That is, you have this inequality. So you know that the L1 norm of the difference is controlled by the L1 norm of the right-hand side. In fact, you can see that this result is true also for weak solution, for in the rational case, and because you have because randomized solution or the entropy solution or the SOLA, for example, are obtained through approximation process, then you conserve in some sense the inequality. Okay, but you need to have some stability result. And if, for example, in the work with François Antonio about the homogenization of the brush with L1 data, this L1 control is crucial to obtain to prove the homogenization of the brush problem with L1 data. The techniques are different with the work with Patrizia Readel or Alip Ropezza, because we use the unfolding method, but in this case, this dependence is crucial. Okay, now I will try to explain the case where lambda equal to 0. Okay, and it is crucial also to understand what happens in the variational case, because you have to we have to show that okay, in some sense it is more difficult. The techniques are similar, but yes or not. In fact, it is not. It is similar, but the end is different, because okay, I take a standard case, variational case, lambda equal to 0. The matrix A is a bounded elliptic matrix, and I assume a global Lipschitz control in the second variable. I assume that F belongs to H minus 1, but you can consider L2 data if you want. And what happens if I use the similar techniques, that is to use Tk of U1 minus U2 as a test function in the difference of the equation? Okay, I can use, and what happens? You can show, okay, if you can because you have if you have in mind the previous proof, you have a term which goes to 0 because it is due to the Lipschitz condition on the matrix A, and you have, due to the ellipticity condition on the matrix, you have that this limit equal to 0. But the problem is that this limit, So I don't know how to use this, that this limit is equal to 0 to obtain the uniqueness. Okay, because for example, if you use Poincaré inequality, what you obtain is just that the integral of tk u1 minus tk to the power 2 goes to 0 as k goes to 0, but it is not useful. It does not. You don't have the uniqueness with such a limit. Sorry. So what I learned when I study the elliptic, the uniqueness of the solution is the technique of Artola. So what is the technique of Artola? The technique is very similar, except that you have to divide by k to the power 2 and not k to the power 1, but also you have to use the Cauchy-Schwarz inequality. So I drop the dependence in X. So you start from, you can write that you use tk of tk of u1 minus u2 as a test function. So you obtain that this term is equal to 0. So now you just to put on the left hand side, right hand side what you want, and you can obtain the inequality. So because you want to use the ellipticity condition. So if you use the if you split the equation in two parts, you obtain on the left hand side the part with the matrix A. On the right hand side, you have the difference of the two matrix field in U1 and U2. On UR, it is important, on the set where U1 and U2 are closed, okay, between 0 and k, the absolute value between 0 and k. So you can derive using the ellipticity condition that you have. So perhaps I have to put some absolute value here. I think it's better. So you have this inequality, and then using the Cauchy-Schwarz inequality, you obtain at the end that there exists a constant c such that for any k you have a control of the gradient of tk of u1 minus u2 to the power 2 by k to the power 2 on some integral. Okay, now you can by the Lebesgue theorem, because the characteristic function of the set of this set goes to 0 as k goes to 0. With the Lebesgue theorem, you have that the integral goes to 0. And then it is very important to have in mind that we divide by k to the power 2 and not k to the power 1, because with the Poincaré inequality, you have that the integral of tk to the of u1 minus u2 over k to the power 2 is less than a constant c prime on the gradient of tk u1 minus u2 to the over k to the power 2, and then it goes to 0. And here you are very happy, because what you obtain that because this function, when k goes to 0, it goes to the characteristic function of u1 minus u2 non-equal to 0. So you obtain that this integral is equal to 0, and then you obtain u1 equal to u2. So it is very important to have in mind the difference of the two cases. When lambda is a positive real number, you have some L1 Lipschitz dependence of the solution with respect to the right-hand side. When k equal to 0, the situation is more intricate, and in fact, what you can prove is you don't have such a control, but but it is possible to prove the uniqueness by U1 equal by the technique of Artola. Okay, now I will try to explain. So just a few remarks on some reference about the case, the variational case. So there are some interesting work of Boccardo, Murat, Galouette, Schippo-Michai, and Carillo-Schippo. You can have extension only in the case, not only, but in the case P less than 2, because the P Laplace operator is generated when P is greater than 2. Okay, and there are in the two papers of Boccardo, Murat, Galouette or Carillo-Schippo, so Schippo-Michai, there are some counterexamples when P is greater than 2. But in fact, it is possible to have some particular uniqueness result when the right-hand side is non-negative, and it is due to a paper of Murat, Casado-Diaz, and Porretta. Now I will try to explain the L1 data because it is what I want to explain. And the main difficulty is that if I recall the method of Artola, I cannot. Okay, it is. I cannot use I have to do more. I cannot just translate. Just to put the method of Artola, because in the method of Artola, I need to have some extra regularity of the gradient, which I don't have, because there is no reason. In general, it is false that the gradient of U2 belongs to L1, belongs to L2. So, and in fact, it is very important to have in mind that when lambda is a positive real number, I can put in the techniques of normalized solution first k and then n. Okay, k goes to 0 and then n goes to infinity. But when lambda is equal to 0, it is not possible because I cannot control the term coming from the divergence operator. So I want to, if I want to extend the method of Artola to the normalized case, I need to find a method where I can put n goes to infinity and then k goes to 0. Okay, so I will try to explain because the results are very technical, but very technical. So for sake of simplicity, I will assume that I have a bounded and a global Lipschitz matrix A. Okay, I will consider a non-negative right-hand side and non-negative solution, just to avoid some complicated notation about the absolute value and so on. Okay, so I will try to explain formally, okay, the method. Now, it is very important to understand that I use strongly the quasi-linear structure of the equation by writing that if I have this, I can write that I have except phi prime. I have this with a good function phi and so on. So it is very important to understand that I will use strongly the structure of the quasi-linear equation. So, formally, because I have to justify, of course, I cannot say that I can use this function because in the normalized solution it is not allowed, but you can consider. So I will use the truncate, but not of U1 minus U2, but a truncate of a nonlinear function in U1 minus this nonlinear function in U2. And for the example, I will use some function phi which has a growth in the power 3. Okay, then in fact I can write, so formally 0 is equal to the two terms which are here. So one term is the good one. The first term is non-negative, so it is a term which gives in fact the uniqueness. So okay, so it is. I think okay. I cannot derive by hand all the inequality, but you have to have in mind that when you consider, it is very important to see and to understand that in fact the matrix A is Lipschitz. Okay, but when in the integral I have more. Okay, I have in fact to express the Lipschitz condition, but with respect to the set where phi on R and phi on S are small enough, are very close. So here I have also to have some k less than k0. So in fact, it is some second year or first year analysis exercise. You can show that yes, it is true that it is an exercise, just some analysis exercise, that the characteristics function of phi of u1 minus phi of u2 less than k with this particular matrix field difference is less than a constant multiplied by k divided by a power 4 of u1 or u2. It is why I have to consider some non-negative solution. So next, what we obtain, we can show at the end that we can control the term, this term, by a complicated term, but in fact, the complicated term is easily controllable, because if you remind the function phi m in the at the beginning of the slide of Bocardo-Galouette, you have here some L1 function. Okay, and because you have an L1 function, you can use the same techniques of Artola, and you can show that the limit of the gradient of wk to the power 2 divided by phi prime of u1 divided by k to the power 2 goes to 0. Okay, but it is not it is not completely finished, because remember that the wk is the difference of phi1 minus phi of u1 minus phi of u2. And here you have some with phi prime of u1, you have some so this function goes to, is not you cannot control, it goes to 0 when u1 goes to plus infinity. So you have, it is not a standard case. So how to conclude? So it is not difficult with the techniques of normalized solution, because you can show that the integral where u1 is less than n, of gradient of wk to the power 2 is in fact less than 1 over the maximum of phi prime over the set minus n n. Sorry, it is reverse. Sorry, it is maximum of phi prime over the set minus n n. So integral of 1 over phi prime of u1 gradient wk to power 2. So you obtain that this limit is equal to 0. And then you can use the what I call two-step with the point carré, enfin two-step with the point carré inequality. That is, you can show that because it is just sufficient to use the point carré inequality. So the gradient of this function is equal to h prime n u1 over n. No, it is h prime n wk k gradient u1 plus hn of u1 gradient wk over k. So when k goes to 0, this term goes to 0. The first one is bounded, and then you have to put n goes to 0, and then it is this term goes to you have this term which goes to 0. And then at the end, what you obtain, and for this you will use the decay of the energy. Okay. So with the decay of the truncated energy, in fact, you have a stronger control here, but everything is okay. What you obtain, because the limit using the Lebesgue theorem, you know that the integral of the sine of phi u1 minus phi of u2 is equal to 0. Okay, because it is the limit as n goes to plus infinity of the integral of hn u1 sine of phi u1 minus u2 on the previous, and this one is the limit when k goes to 0 of wk over k. So here it is the method, and so the crucial point is this inequality, that is to have a function phi which is well chosen to render very close to concentrate the u1 and u2. Okay, just I will give some. Okay, of course you have to justify all the formal computation. For this, you have to use the function hn. So just to finish, I will give you the true theorem, and I will finish. Sorry. So the first is a not easy to read uniqueness result. Okay, and it is not easy to read as it is written. So in fact, it is as I explained. That is, you need to have a strong control of the matrix A with respect to some function. So here, okay, it is some ad hoc condition. The only point is that delta is greater than 1 over 2 because you need 2 delta greater than 1. And in fact, it is due to some Bocardo-Galouet estimate. And using this, it is some result with Dominique Blanchard and François Désir. You obtain that the normalized solution is unique. So there are also very interesting results of Alessio Porretta for L1 data and the modulus of continuity that is bounded by exponential growth. So now I will give you some almost readable uniqueness result, which is some differential inequality. So here it is what I found in the beginning of when I studied a lot of this kind of problem. It is you have to control the modulus of continuity of the matrix A by some function which verifies some differential inequality. And in fact, you can give this to the students as an exercise, that if you take exponential of exponential or any iteration of exponential, then you have the function, this function verifies the following differential inequality. Okay, and in fact, the proof is not. It is also some first or second year exercise. be able, when you have this control, to construct the function phi. So now, just to finish, so I will give some example.
1 minute, Olivier, please.
What?
1 minute.
Combien? Huh? 1 minute? Yes, it is finished. So if you take, for example, to give some example of a matrix field which verifies the previous condition, okay, you can have some highly oscillating or increasing coefficient. Okay, because here you have some, so it's just to give an example of a very general matrix field for which you have the uniqueness. Okay, so just to finish a very readable uniqueness result, because it is, so it was a question because the differential inequality. So I was very happy with the we were very happy with the differential inequality. But of course, the natural question was, can we have some more simple condition? So in fact, nobody asked for this question, so we asked for ourselves with Philomena Feo some years ago, and in fact, so here it is very readable. So if the matrix A is local Lipschitz in R, in fact, the renormalized solution is unique. And in fact, the proof is linked to the fact that we can construct a function phi which verifies the differential inequality. And the surprise that I use I don't know that it is useful, but we use the Hermite interpolation on the family of function which blow up in N, and we were able to construct, if the matrix A verifies the local Lipschitz condition, then we were able to construct a function phi which verifies the differential inequality. So, as a conclusion, because the result is very readable, the uniqueness result we had are new even in the variational case, because in the previous fork of Boccardo, Galoët, Murat, or Schippo, Michai, or Schippo, Carrillo, you have a strong control of the modulus of continuity. So the case where the function is local Lipschitz, is very local Lipschitz, is not allowed. Okay, you have some possible extension, and also when P is greater than 2. So, for the conclusion, thank you for your attention. I will put the slide. I will send the slide for if you want to read, and if you have question, I am open to any question. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I thank you. I thanks very much, Olivier, because for his interesting lecture. He was able to explain a very technical question in a simple way, a pedagogical way. Thank you very much for that. I see a question of Patrizia Donato. You can read, Olivier.
Yes. Yes, but in fact, for the question of admissible test function, because you for example, it is okay. Where it is here. Yes. For example, so it is. Sorry. Yes, because for example, it is not clear. So in the linear case, it is true, but it is not clear because you know that Tk of U1 belongs to H1 0. You know that Tk of U2 belongs to H1 0, but it is not clear that Tk of U1 minus U2 belongs to H1 0. Okay?
Yes, I understand. Thanks.
Okay? So it is true,
yeah,
when R does not depend. Okay. So you have to work, in fact, to show this. Okay?
Okay.
And if the matrix A does not depend on U, then in fact the uniqueness proof is more simple. Okay, because in fact you can show in this case that the integral of ax gradient, because in fact you can show this. Equal to 0. And then you obtain that U1 equal to 0 by a standard technique with using the truncate. Okay?
Olivier, there are other
Okay.
Oui.
three questions, please.
Okay. Okay. So I have for the general potential possibly negative. So what I know is that you can replace lambda by, for example, for strictly monotone function. So you can replace by a function which is lambda x mu, which okay with strictly monotone, but with the general potential possibly negative. So I don't know, because the first question is, do you have, for example, uniqueness when in the standard variational case? Because okay, Random solutions are useful, but it is not. It is you don't have some magical result, because if you cannot expect to have the uniqueness result in the variational case, even if the solutions are regular, then Random solution, I'm not sure that it can help you. Okay, so I'm sorry, but I have no, I don't know this kind of problem. About non-coercive case, yes, there are some result of Guibé, but I can send to you. There is some result of Guibé-Mercaldo, and for not because okay, it depends of what kind of non-coercive case, because you have some non-coercive case with a function which is phi xu. You have also some non-coercive case which a function which depend on the gradient of u, and you can mix both. So I can send you some. You can send me a mail, and I can send you some reference, because there are a work of Guibé-Mercaldo. But you have also for this case 2 or 3 papers, I think, of Beta, Mercaldo, Murat, Pordio, I think, we on the famous method of Botaro-Marina, because the difficulty is to have to derive some estimate, because the operator is not coercive.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
And we resume in 3 minutes, in 2 minutes, with François Murat.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Olivier. Merci.
Thank you, Antonio.